Hello,
Hello,
and welcome to another episode of.
the Super Data Brothers Super Show.
That's right, I am Ryan,
I am Eric.
and we are two real life brothers who work in the data and analytics industry. And if we got a good one for you today, folks.
Boy, do we. Ryan, I'm so excited for today's show because normally what we're talking about is, we're arguing about semantic layers and what they mean, and everyone has a different opinion. We're not talking about semantic layers today, folks. Don't
Yeah,
worry. If you tuned in for semantic layers, we're not even talking about it at
for
all.
once. For once.
For once, what we're talking about is exactly what the clickbait said. It's all right. AI will steal your soul, not just jobs. So, like, how is AI going to change? Like, not just how we do data extracts, but like beyond that philosophically. And we have the perfect guest for that. We've got Ramona Truta joining us today, and I think she has a lot of interesting stuff to say about that.
Yeah, I was really excited to get Ramona on the show. Just if you follow her on LinkedIn, and if you don't, and you're watching right now, you should. Ramona's perspective is a great combination of, yes, she talks about technical topics, but she talks about them in light of, I don't know, the human spirit, right? And I think that's something we really need to focus more on as we enter this age of in some ways, potentially post-human age, right? And so she's a perfect guest to have on at this time. Now, folks, listen, if you tune in all the time, you know this, but if you're new here, this is a live show, which means if you get your questions, comments, reactions, thoughts, things you love, things you hate into the chat,
Mm-hmm.
whether you're watching on YouTube or LinkedIn, we will read them out live. And we always kick it off by giving a shout out to everyone who gets their name and where they're watching from into the chat. So let us know where you're watching from, and we will shout you out. We're about to bring Ramona on. Before we do, we of course got to do a quick thank you to our sponsor, Good Data. Hey, did you know Good Data launched their Good Data AI platform last week into production? This is a different take on AI. Of course, it's based on Good Data's industry-leading semantic layer. We said we weren't going to mention that in this episode, but there it is. And Good Data AI, look, what makes it unique? Okay. Three things that I think make it really unique. The first one is it doesn't just generate content, it also finds pre-existing content in the same chat flow. Why build a new chart or dashboard when there's a perfectly good existing one that you can give to your end users? The second thing is scope. Many AI tools in the BI space only work on a single data set or dashboard. Good Data's BI AI capabilities span the entire data model and entire BI environment. So you can be looking at dashboard A, asking questions, switch over to dashboard B, you have the same conversation, same question set. And three is the embeddability. This is a BI assistant that you can take out of BI. And let's be honest, who wants to go into a BI tool in 2025? Most users would rather see their insights in the places they actually do work. So Good Data's AI is capable of coming out. I just see this comment we have here. Good Day's AI is capable of being embedded, the UI embedded anywhere, or doing an API SDK level integration with your software or your chatbot. So it is unique and very powerful in the BI space, and you should check it out at gooddata.com. All right, let's bring Ramona on and kick things off.
Yeah.
And we got a hello. We have to give a shout out to I'm a fat ass with this picture of Elon Musk, who says, "Hell yeah, first person in YouTube chat." So there you go. Welcome, Elon. How are things going for you? I heard it's been tough lately. Good luck selling those trucks. Welcome, Ramona, to the show.
Hello, everyone. I cannot see the chat,
yeah, we
this is a StreamYard thing. So I am tuning in from Waterloo, Ontario, Canada.
Oh, wonderful.
So I'm very close to where you are, actually. So outside of my friends and colleagues in Toronto, I think you are the closest to me, and maybe Aaron Wilkerson. So
yeah, he's in our area too. Yeah, well, I didn't realize that. Yeah, we're neighbors.
Yeah, so I'm midway between you and Toronto, I would say, and actually, it's so funny. I was thinking about this real connection in my big knowledge graph with where Eric is. You are in Lansing, right?
Yep. Yeah, I'm in Lansing.
Okay, so I was there attending a concert probably 9 years ago. Bobby McFerrin, and get this, the concert was Spiritual Me. So I think it's all coming very circle around, and it was a live show. He didn't rehearse with the musicians. So the musicians were from from the city, from the university, and the concert actually happened in the amphitheater, the musical amphitheater there in the campus, and they were just doing improv, and it was the most spiritual experience, musical experience I have had in my life. And I just thought that how amazing to have this full circle, right? I didn't know anybody in the city at the time, but yeah. So
Yeah. Well, next time you're in Lansing, you and Eric can grab some lunch. Actually, I'm probably going to Toronto in the next few weeks. If I end up driving, maybe we should arrange things so I could stop and get some lunch or something.
Absolutely. Awesome.
So Ramona, we always, obviously the first question you ask a guest is, introduce yourself and tell our audience who you are. And of course that's what I'm going to ask, but also, we were kind of talking in the pre-show about what a hard question that actually is to answer. So, so why don't you tell us that before you tell us who you are? Why don't we dive into why is that such a hard question to answer?
Well, so that was even when I wrote a blurb for the show, right? So I made the connection to a post I wrote some time ago. This idea of the double helix, right? You cannot separate the human and the professional. It's intertwined. So it's exactly that. How do you compress in a short blurb, right? In your entire life, not just as a human, but also as a professional. So in my head, I have this huge knowledge graph. So maybe in everybody's head, I don't know. I build my life in graph points, and then make connections and relationships and all of that. I keep building. So how do you compress all of that into tiny little things? And I would have to write a lot of very high level cipher queries in Neo4j. See what I did? That I dropped the fact that I'm a certified Neo4j. So
there you go.
There you go. Yeah. So it's also but now to answer the question, it's like building a very complex system, right? Because our lives are a complex system, and just to summarize it all, you would have to go even meta, right? So yeah, I think I'm going fractal here in my head. I'm processing what I'm answering, what I want to say, what I should say. So
yeah,
I'm constraining, right? And probably I'm going into many directions and I don't provide the answer. I don't know. Did I deliver?
Yeah, no, that's really the point, right? And that's what we wanted to talk about today, as technology is really rapidly evolving in data in general, but in particular AI. What does that mean for us as professionals, but not just as professionals, right? As people.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would like to hear kind of your, what has your experience with AI been up to this point? How do you use it? How don't you use it? And how does it fit into your life?
Well, that is a big question, and we can speak. We need a lot of time to unpack it, right? So, well, the first time I came into AI was really when I was doing my undergrad in computer science, and I had a year-long course in AI and learn about the perceptron and all of that, right? And all the other classes building onto that. But skipping several decades to today, yeah, it's I'll start with how I use it. I use it as a companion first and foremost to build on my ideas and to strengthen my ideas, right? Like I'm working on my own a lot, so I need that echo chamber, that I need somebody to help me guide this process and brainstorm. So my ideas are my own, but I use AI and I constantly ask this question, right? Because I constantly need the critique back. So it's constantly reinforcing, no, you are the architect of your ideas, of the things you're building. I am, it keeps calling itself the dictionary or, the storyteller around that. But it's an immense body of knowledge that now we have at our fingertips, and I'm using it. So, and of course, the vibe coding part, I mean, I can write code, but there are things that I don't want to spend time picking up on REST frameworks and whatnot, right? So I'm trying things out just to reinforce what I'm talking about and to learn, because I'm a system thinker, right? So when I look at what this tool is doing during a vibe, let's just say I'm doing a vibe coding session, so it keeps generating code and it keeps telling me, oh, you need this or that or the other. So then because I know how to write code and I know how to build systems, I know what to ask. So I know where my gaps are, and I learn, basically. I use it to develop a new way of learning. And I'm very precise on what I'm asking. So I think this is kind of a segue, right, into this idea that we need to learn how to learn in this AI age. And this is something that we're chatting about, right, prior to the show, that
Yeah.
How do we guide our children? How do we prepare them for the future that we do not know what it's going to be? How do we prepare ourselves to live in that future that, yeah.
Yeah. And I think, so everybody, you see many people wondering, obviously, especially in data right now, what does this mean for me in my career? And I last week was in Frankfurt. I gave a great presentation with Thomas Karba about what he's doing with good data and combining it with Cursor, and he's really very, I'd say, at the forefront of thinking in the business intelligence realm when it comes to how to use AI to enhance your individual workflow and business intelligence. Very cool presentation. But I will tell you that myself and many of the people in the audience who I talked to were watching that and just thinking, okay, so what am I going to do in 5 years, right? When you see everything that Cursor can do right now. And then, so everybody's wondering that, right? But the extension to that, and the thing you and I were talking about that's much more pressing for those of us with children is, okay, what do I tell them? How do I prepare them for this future of society and work where it seems like it's become unpredictable? What are things going to be like in 3 years? Well, when you have children, you're thinking much longer than 3 years in the future, and especially my kids are 9, 6, and 3, and so there's a lot of future planning going on here. And so why don't we just let's just kick that back and forth a little bit. Like, how should people think about this future state, this hard to know future state, and how should they prepare for it, either as individuals or, certainly what would you tell a parent who's worried about this?
Okay, so let me take a step back to that and answer it through a question. As we do not know what the future will be like, yes? But are there things that we know for sure will be the same as they are today? What does it mean to be a good human? And this is something that I'm passionate and I keep talking about. So technology will evolve, right? That is a given. The way we will interact with this technology will evolve. I think we cannot even imagine what that will be like. So maybe the sci-fi of our childhood will finally come to fruition. Yes, we are close to getting there, and now there is power to make this happen. So then, what about us? And this is one thing. Just the other day, I wrote about and really keeps me up at night. what are we modeling? Because all these systems, right? We are data people. All these systems consume data. And the data that they consume, then they will try to emulate the world. That's what they're working on. And it's big push, right? And lots of billions in that direction, modeling the world to have this global worldview. But what exactly is that? It's based on all the past interactions, all the past data, right? But can we really encapsulate what it means to be a human? Like, look, the three of us here, right? If we throw a question right now, we will contextualize it based on our lived experience, our internal knowledge graphs, right? We'll answer it differently, not because we misunderstand the question. It's just the constraints that we have built our lives and we think are based on our past experience and our context. So when we're trying to build this worldview, what exactly does that mean? Whose worldview? Certainly, so I think in that sense, the push is to, it's going to be a push towards whatever they want to push it. And that is where we need to pay real attention. And what value, and I would focus on what values are we considering that will be constant, right? And in that way, so leaving aside the technology that we don't know how it will be like, what are the static core bedrock of our existence? What was holding true for our grandparents, parents, and us that will stay true for our children? So it's kind of a winded answer, but it's a very loaded question, right?
Yeah.
So for me, this question is more prescient because my daughter is very close to starting college. So I can say that she has been very involved in her own community. So she has her own forum. She has been more socially engaged than me. I mean, I've learned some lessons from her, which is great. And that is a very good point, that we were taught to look at our elders, learn from them, and keep our mouths shut, right? And the elders never wanted to learn from us. But I think that is wrong. I think we have to learn and we have to adjust and adapt to our children's lives and what they're going through, because we definitely have not experienced in our lives growing up what they experience right now. We weren't exposed to social media. We weren't exposed to all this hatred around, right?
Yeah.
So how do we help them remain grounded, and also help them build resilience, be strong people, with empathy, being really those good humans, right? What we imagine that to be. And do we need to redefine what that means? I don't think so. It's
Right.
I don't know. I'll take a breather now, so you can interject and say.
I mean, I agree with everything you just said, pretty much. I think, we're living in a time, you don't have to go back too far in human history, where the difference between the world your grandfather lived in and the world you live in is virtually nothing, right? For most of human history, the pace of change was so slow, for better and worse, right? That yeah, like your grandfather's life and your life were so similar. And now we live in a world, I think about, like, Eric and I have a grandfather who fought in the Second World War. And I think about when he was young versus now, it is in many ways a completely different world. And so there is, the pace of change is so fast. And I think that a lot of parents, certainly if you go back, you don't have to go back too far. In fact, I think a lot of parents still do this, especially like, I kind of am in the startup milieu, and I know a lot of people in San Francisco. And when they have kids, it wasn't uncommon 3 years ago to hear someone bragging about how much Python their 7-year-old knows, right?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think, and I totally understand that impulse. You're trying to prepare your children to be economically successful. And I think in a world where success is perceived as becoming more and more scarce, right? That makes total sense. You want to set your kids up to be able to be, economically viable without you, and everybody wants that, right? But I just think that what AI has shown us was true even before AI, but it really highlighted the fact that the pace of change in society and technology is so fast now that that's actually not possible for a 6-year-old to guess what the skills they're going to need are professionally when they're 26. And so instead, you need to focus on creating virtuous human beings.
And let's round out a little bit some more, because you brought out something very, very important. I think that we also need to teach them problem-solving skills, like not how you solve Python code, right? It increasingly got easier to learn how to code and to learn Python, but yeah, that is right now the value of knowing that now is decreased by the fact that we can vibe code our way through a lot of things. But that doesn't mean that we're good coders, right? Or that we can build systems. We can build toy systems. So and when I talk about solving problems, it's not just, okay, here's a math problem, solve it. And I like to throw these math riddles every once in a while, and because I like to play with numbers and I think with numbers. So the system cannot generate the math riddle for me. It can solve it, but it has a hard time coming up with the same constraints and same problems that I did. Okay, so let's just say in the context of, and I will make, I'm thinking in real time and connect to situations with my daughter, right? And how we address things, or how, it's evolving, right? Us as parents, we constantly transform and evolve because there is no manual.
No.
And certainly every kid has its own manual. You have 3, so you probably see this. Not 2 of them are alike. Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
definitely
So
not.
you really have a larger problem there. So in when we have abundance, let's just say that when we have abundance, you just throw money at a problem, you call for food, it's coming, whatever, right? But when you don't have abundance, and I'm talking from the point of view of somebody who grew up in communist Romania, where, like, imagine North Korea right now, that's how things were. And that is what helped me build resourcefulness. Like, you really had to make do with what you have. So this is what I'm thinking with problem solving, going down to knowing first principles. And let's just say preparing food, right? Because everybody needs to eat. So this is such an important skill to have. And you open the fridge, you have 3 things there because you didn't do groceries. Now what can I do with this? And my nerdy daughter would tell me, well, with 3 ingredients, she's doing the computation, you can create these different things. And I say, yeah, but throwing in different condiments, different sauces and whatnot, you can extrapolate and create a lot of other things, right? So knowing this first, knowing the first principles of things, and and also teaching them to not be afraid. I think this is one core component. Don't be afraid to experiment. What can happen? Nothing. If the food burns or the food is disgusting, we don't eat it, we put it in the compost bin. And that goes back into nature. So, and you are a chicken farm guy, so you would know that, yeah?
Absolutely.
So it's that mentality that it's not always going to be abundance. And what does abundance mean? And sometimes I have more money than time. Yes. So just have to be courageous and experiment, have that mentality set, that to instill in them that, and to build to build that trust in themselves. I think if there is one thing that kids today need is security in themselves, and the level of anxiety in children are like it's heartbreaking, and not just children, adults, right? And when parents are going through hardships, right? You don't. None of us has any security really, for job security and all of that. So you take that home to your children, and they sense that, and then they start to feel like they are the problem. So it's just. Am I going into many rambling tangents here?
No, Ramona, you're not. I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot to think about there. I mean, so one of the things that I think about a lot, and really, I think actually, as you were talking, it kind of clarified my thinking around this. Really, is that when we think about teaching our children to solve problems, we have a tendency, especially those of us who are in the tech field, to think in terms of mathematical or math adjacent problems that you might need to solve, right? So like how to solve technical problems, right? Or how to solve, but actually I'm becoming increasingly convinced that the problems of the future and even the problems of today are mostly not problems about technology. They are problems having to do with working with other people, right? Social problems.
Yes.
And I think kids today, and my piece of advice to, all you tech bros out there who have kids, is that solving social problems and being able to navigate those things is already the most important thing they can probably learn. And that, and if AI does all the things we think it's going to do, it's just going to be increasingly important in the future. If the AI is writing the data pipeline, then the question of who to build it for and why, and navigating that becomes the value you can add as a person, right? And then you just extrapolate that into your whole life, way outside of work. That's one of the things I worry about with kids. We're going to turn into this is going to be like the parent therapy hour here, I think. But I worry about kids. Like they're in, are they developing, or is their ability to solve social problems being stunted by kind of the technological and social milieu they're in, right? Where they don't have as much free play, they don't have as much, they don't have the ability to take social risks that I did when I was a child, because they exist in a world of kind of omnipresent parent surveillance. At least they do where I am. It's quite common that kids spend, many of my peers' children spend virtually 0 minutes a day without adult supervision. And so these are the types of things I kick around, but inevitably to tie it back to the topic, I think when you're asking yourself, well, how can I prepare my child for the future, right? It's this sort of stuff. I would say it's not like give your 5-year-old ChatGPT so they can learn how to be a prompt engineer. Already the AIs are writing the prompts. So it's like we're already past the point where being the best prompt engineer is necessarily going to be your distinguishing skill.
And then it's interesting to bring that up, because I wonder, as the chatbot technology progresses, so currently it's relatively in its infancy, it already just tells you you're right about everything. I remember it was really telling you right about everything.
That's by training.
Is important.
So
right.
And to as you were talking, as I was listening to you, Ryan, I was drilling down even further, because I have one word for everything that would encapsulate everything we're saying here: communication. And I have been saying this for a long time, but it was the context was not clear. Depending on who you're talking to, they will understand this differently, right? So even in my metaphor of the double helix, if you think about the human genome, right? In between the two double helixes, there are those connections. So that is communication. Because inside of us, think about it, if two of us are, the human and the professional, the internal dialogue that constantly is happening, right? So that's communication. Now we have to learn to communicate with machines. I mean, we have been communicating with machines, right? But the art of communicating with humans, that is what's lost in the process. And I see this, you probably see it too. I mean, both of you, right? Folks who are so spend a lot of time on social channels, but texting. When it comes to a face-to-face, like even a virtual group, right? The cameras are off, nobody's asking questions, nobody says anything, and then everybody's upset that they don't have visibility on LinkedIn, and how can they make that bigger or whatever. What are you afraid of? And this is something that we all inherently feel, right? Putting yourself out there, constantly feeling, oh my God, am I gonna be sounding stupid, and I'm gonna be looking stupid? What would the folks think about me? I'm presenting. Right now, I'm talking for myself.
Yeah.
I don't want to generalize, right? But there comes a time where enough is enough. And especially if we have kids, how do we model a world for them when this is what, I see people on the street with a stroller or with their kids, the kid is next to them, and they are like this, hunched over the phone. So you model that, the kid sees that, the kid learns from you, because we were children once, and we learned from what we saw. We modeled what we saw. The same is true for our children. Now, so I think I interrupted Eric there. He wanted to say something, and I just bulldozed.
Oh no, those were all good points. And
we do have a couple comments we should read here. Michael Dunphy, welcome back, Michael. Michael's one of our regulars, so it's good to have you
here.
Hello,
Michael.
So he says the skill to be self-motivated and curious to learn new things has always been the key to success in any field.
Absolutely, 100%.
And then he followed up with entrepreneurship is the way.
Yes, because this world is not looking at people who are outliers in a good, positive way. Like, if you stand out and you don't check the boxes that they want you to check, that's it. So, again, speaking from experience.
Yeah, and then we have a comment. I can't. The link that the StreamYard LinkedIn integration is just like slowly decaying over time. But we have this comment from Mohammed Adil, which I can't show on the screen because of the LinkedIn integration.
I know him. He's a regular on Chris's tabs.
Is he?
Yes. I've met him there. So hello. Hello,
quick self promotion here. I'm on Chris's podcast next Monday, so tune in, everybody. I'll be joining on the Data Value Show with Chris Tabb. I heard some Chris Tabb stories at the Databricks conference this weekend. I obviously can't share them, but Chris is a legend. I'll leave it at that.
Yes.
Muhammad says, teach kids with hope, not fear. A positive mindset unlocks endless possibilities, especially in a tech-driven world.
Exactly.
One of the things I'm curious about, I mean, I am concerned that we're on the verge of something that I consider quite dystopian. If you look at the people who control these models and you look at what they say, I think what they say is frightening enough. When Mark Zuckerberg says, for example, that a great future would be that you have more AI friends than real friends. That's kind of what he envisions for the future of social media. Is most of the people you interact with are AIs, and you're happier because, the algorithm, the AI will be tuned to make you happier than real humans would make you. And therefore you'll be glued to that.
So that's the brainwashing part that is already, yes, we already see it. That goes back to, right, the question, what exactly are we modeling? And Meta is in a position, they have so much data, right? So they can govern and put in whatever rules they want to. And now, let me this was a lot, right? What you just said. And the experience with working with AI, and the models are trained to self-assure you at all times. And I know I tested some of these very recently, like a week ago, and it was giving me conflicting information. And then I said, are you, I really pointed out, are you just agreeing with me because you were trained that way? And then said, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And then I pushed some more because even in the process of self-assuring me that it was agreeing with me based on testing, it was still doing the same thing. So it's a constant loop, right? Let's raise the human up, because then it's dopamine, right? And this is one of the things I wrote down, for us to touch on this chat today. It's all if we think about addiction, right? And when we think about addiction, we think about alcohol, drugs, but social media is addiction. These devices, this is addiction. You wake up in the middle of the night and you want to know what's happening, all of that. That's addiction. That's dopamine rush. Same with these models, right? Oh, I am having a terrible thing. Well, let's check my friend, because this friend is always agreeing with me. I only want people to agree with me. Nobody's giving me a critique. I don't want to hear critique. So it's that fragility, right? That if we start with this idea that we as humans, we are fragile, and not, everything can easily destroy us, then that is the solution. But that's the wrong underlying assumption. So if going back to what we were saying earlier, building resilient children, right? And in a sense, Ryan, that we have to teach them and practice with them constantly to push back and to question, right? Instilling in them this idea to debate with us, the adults, debate with others, not to be contrarians. And that's not what I'm pushing here. It's to just, okay, the kid comes to you and say, hey, Dad, Jimmy down the street told me this thing. Is he right? And then you say, okay, so let's think about it. What do you think? Let's analyze it. And then I've done this practice with my daughter a lot, because they always make problems bigger, right? We do too, but yeah, that's separate. Now we're talking about kids. And I analyze with her and I say, okay, let me read myself what this kid had said or wrote. And then I give her a different perspective, but a neutral perspective, right? Not putting our kid down, but they need to learn that they aren't always correct. We, first of all, aren't always correct. So we have to model that thing. And I remember when she was little, I used to make intentional mistakes just to show her that, oh, oopsie, mommy did an oopsie. It's okay, nothing happened. So just to build that resilience in her, that it's okay to make mistakes. Nothing will happen, we'll fix it. And I'll take that a step even further back. And this is a lesson that I've learned from a friend who had children before me, to make them trust you to come to you with problems and all of that, right? That awareness that rather than going to go chat with the AI friend about their problems. There is a human first who may have the answers. So let me go to mom and dad or aunt, whomever, one good human in their life. I strongly believe every child needs to have one good human in their life to be a role model. And then let me take that into consideration and maybe go check with the AI friends. But what you just said, Ryan, and I'll wrap it up here. That's a really big problem, right? They're already spending their lives in the social medium and learn from their peers and forget that there are humans next to them who can give them guidance. So
Yeah, the we got a couple comments here. So I think this is quite insightful, and I have a follow up I'd like to share, Michael. Just something that your comment triggered in me, but he says AI is tech's way to create frictionless social interaction. Friction is what makes social relationships meaningful, though, and you know what that made me think is I think not to play like kind of bro Evo psych here on the podcast, but certainly you don't have to go too far back in past where the number of social signals you might get in a day is, let's say, 100, right? Interactions that you have with another human being. And what a lot of this tech does is it simulates that and amps it up. So now you're getting 10,000 social interaction points in a day. And there's an asymmetry in the way people feel, the difference between pleasure and pain, right? Do pain is human beings seem to put a lot more effort into avoiding pain and loss, right? That is like one of the primary things that we do. And there's that creates this asymmetry between chasing what's good and avoiding what's bad. And how that factors into this is, I think, if you used to get 100 social interactions a day and 8 of them were bad, and now you get 10,000 a day, that means you're getting 800 bad social interactions. And those 800 bad social interactions are going to vastly outweigh the 9,200 positive ones in your psyche. And I just cannot, my kids, they're young enough. I'm still able to enforce the no phone rule. At this point, I'm going to ride that train as long as I can. But I look at, even their peers now, and this is starting to become clear. My 9-year-old is recently said to me that she feels younger than her peers because sometimes they talk about things and she doesn't know what they're talking about because she's not on the apps, right? And I kind of said, I'm sorry. I know that that's hard, but, I explained to her, like, well, here's a reason why we've kind of made this decision as a family that a 9-year-old does not need to be on Instagram. And so far she accepts it. I mean, we'll see. Eric, you know your niece. What do you think? How long is that going to last?
Hard to say.
She's a rule follower, so
that only lasts so long, though. Generally,
and that's a real issue with the children, right? The social pressure, and I know I've been through this with my own daughter, right? So she's older now, but she would do a lot of dancing. And when TikTok came around, all the girls were in the changing room with their phones doing TikTok. She was with her tablet building worlds in Minecraft and whatnot. And she had no desire, no nothing, but she was telling me she was outcasted because she had no interest in that. So then she went on and she built her forum on a digital platform, Art of Problem Solving, I don't know. And she wanted to make such a good forum. She wanted to be #1 forum, and she succeeded now years in a row. So she doesn't do TikTok, any of those things. Her phone is just, so she can communicate with me. That's it. I know I lucked out in that way, but it's nature and nurture, right? It also, and yeah, it's Ryan. eventually you will have to give in. I mean, sorry, I don't know how you will sort that out, but you have to help her not feel as an outcast and not feel less than the other girls just because she's not on socials and the phone and all of that. I think that is the core of what we're talking here, right?
Yeah.
And to reinforce that idea that in the way, all the ways in which she's special, what are her superpowers there? And I know, but I guess I was also lucky that when she was that age, this wasn't really such a problem. So I don't want to sound like a hypocrite here giving advice for something that I didn't really had to experience like that to that extent.
Yeah. I do think there is an awareness now among parents that this has actually become a big problem. And, you know, our approach to it right now is to get to know the families of her friends and kind of figure out if we can band together and as a group say, you know, we're not going to give these girls, like, if as a group they don't have access to this stuff,
Yes.
and suddenly it becomes much easier for all of them.
Yeah.
The herd mentality. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. On the other end, my parents thought he didn't have access to Grand Theft Auto 3. I did have access to Grand Theft Auto 3 when I was 11.
Well, you know, Grandma bought it for me.
Really?
She didn't know what it was. I asked for
Well,
it
there
for
you go.
Christmas. It showed up. I was happy.
I was gonna say the same thing. Maybe Eric, the cool uncle, was gonna be the one who's gonna do it behind your back. So
oh yeah, they come to visit. It's like, hey,
yeah, because you need to score points with your nieces and nephews, right? So who doesn't want to be the cool uncle? And you know what? In all seriousness, I think, and I've had that in my own life, and that has helped me in so many ways. Because when you cannot go to your parent, you want to have another adult to whom you want to go to. And yes, you're still the adult, but the child needs to know that he's loved and understood. And if a different adult would say the same thing as the parent, they will take that, not what the parent says.
Yeah. We have another quote here from Muhammad. He says, if we spend hours on screens, how can we ask our kids to do differently?
Exactly.
Let's lead by example, reduce screen time, and involve them in real world physical activities. Preach, brother. And I will admit, right? Like this thing has a hold on me too, right? It's I'm not
first thing when you wake up.
Yeah, I'm not above these concerns, right? I feel it too. It's just such a different world. Like when, you know, I'm 42, so, you know, I was on the internet probably starting when I was about 12, but the internet was just not that good. You know, it was nothing like it is now. I was going to, you know, it was me participating in like Wheel of Time fanfic bulletin boards. That's what the internet was in 1994 for me. And even that was honestly quite, it was addictive in its own way. But it was nothing like this kind of dopamine system hacking applications that we have today that you know are like a nuclear bomb targeted at your attention systems that just get you hooked. Ramona, we have about 10 minutes left. And we have another quote here. Can I get this up on the screen? Of course not. This is from Miko Yuk. Hey, Miko. Good to hear from you. Miko's a dear friend of mine. She says, I talk to AI all the time. I use the voice functions. Do I belong here? LOL. And I think the answer there is yes, Miko, because, you know, we like Ramona talked at the beginning of the show about how she actually uses it quite frequently. And I use it every day. I use it every day.
Me too. And I pay for them and I use multiple of them. Yeah.
Yeah. It constantly tells me how awesome I am. It's great.
Yeah, I know. I've never felt so good. It's crazy.
Never felt so good.
I cannot imagine right now doing the work that I do, and I cannot imagine life without it. Like seriously, just to have that brainstorming partner and also, I worked a lot on, I cannot really give details because of NDAs and stuff, but I have worked on places where we're building the data sets and doing the training. And I knew a year before things were coming out what's coming, right? But I've seen that other side of this equation and the world. And the the issues are real. And even when you have humans in the loop, right, and you want to have this uh, jury of judges, right, to for every interaction and everything, still you will see the delta variation in what everyone will say, right? Giving a statement like the three of us, maybe we'll assign different scores to everything. So then what does that mean? Are we building towards something that, like in a bell curve, are we building towards that middle? A lot of us live 1 sigma, 2 sigma, or even 3 sigma on the sides, right? It's so where the money is and the push is where that middle will go. And that's frightening. That's really, really frightening. And we are so preoccupied, and the tech people are so preoccupied and obsessed with, the FOMO. I have to be the first to do this. I have to do agents. I have to do this and that we forget. They sidestep so many thoughts and the governance piece and all of that, what it means, what it's going to do to us. And this system the systems evolve so fast that all the bias that is already there will just propagate and get bigger and bigger. And one day we'll, not far down the road, we'll think, oh, of course it's like this, it's been like this. But we should remember the times when it wasn't. So
yeah, I mean, I'm very concerned along with you just about the values like that these AI systems will inevitably have, like whose value,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. There's
whose
a
world are we modeling?
Right.
Yeah, there's an old famous quote well, somewhat famous to some, about this someone. It's the tradition of all dead generations weighs like a nightmare on the brain of the living, right? And that was true when it was written. This was written in the 1800s. Like now, it's just like, oh, whatever these chatbots biases they have now, that's just gonna be propagated forever in the future.
Yeah,
to some degree.
And just think about the gender bias, right? That already exists. And yesterday I did those images, right?
I saw that your post about that.
Yeah, and I was working on something else, and I needed a picture, and I saw and I did a larger project in the fall exactly on that, and it's a meta project, and it's frightening. And you also have boys, right, Ryan? And
yeah,
considering what's happening in US, it's they keep hearing and hearing, and they will go backwards. The kids will learn to go backwards to when women didn't have, sorry, I don't want to make this political or anything, really.
this has been the most political season of the Super Data Brothers show in history. So
and
please.
it's women belong, because we were designed to be the only human incubators. That means we are reduced to that.
Right.
Women in careers, that takes a toll on a career, and I know that firsthand. And we don't want to relegate to the 1950s where that is your role and that's what you are supposed to be. But we need to teach kids that. And when they only have AI friends who maybe that's how they're positioned to propagate that, that's what they know. My friend did this. How do you fight that? When you reach that point where it's so ingrained, right? And in a lot of cases, unfortunately, it's enforced in the household. So that's what they see. That's what they know. So how do you rewrite all of that? The systems. And Ryan, I made a mental note to say this and to congratulate you for showing that it can be done, to have women guests in this show, like 50-50, or I forgot the number.
Pretty close, yeah. It's
Pretty
40.
close.
It was 48% last time I looked.
kudos and hats off, really.
Thank
Because you show that it can be done, and we don't make it about gender, right? But listen, I grew up in communist Romania, and as a woman, even though it was so tough, I had more rights than women have in certain states in your country. And I know even oh my God, Melania, oh, not Melania,
Yeah.
sorry, Bill Gates' former wife. She talks a lot about this, and she says it's unbearable that my granddaughters have less rights than I had. So Melania French Gates. I was saying Melania, and then I was thinking of Melania Trump, but no, that Melania.
Yeah.
I will. So first of all, credit where credit's due. A lot of the initial seasons of this show, we recruited from guests at speakers at the Day to Day Texas conference, and Lynn, the organizer of Day to Day Texas, does an excellent job.
Yes,
right.
I know he's amazing on that. He really wants to bring women. Yeah.
So Lynn gave us really fertile ground to search for women who would be excellent guests, and then it was easy to just keep it going, right? I mean, I don't know, there's no shortage of great women to interview on a show like this. It's not hard. My advice to anyone who's worried about the gender balance on their podcast is like, well, have you tried asking?
Exactly. If you keep looking for the bros, you only get the bros, and then women learn, right? Because we're data, so we see the pattern. And what do we learn? Women are not welcome there, so we're not even gonna try. And I'm not gonna go invite myself. Yes.
Right. Exactly. So it's we hope to keep it going here on the Super Data Brothers show with a healthy mix of guests of all types. Keely Hallahan writes.
Oh, hi, Keely.
Yeah. Hi, Keely. She says, okay, this might be slightly off topic, but I thought the MIT Scratch program geared towards kids was so cool. I don't know what that is, Keely.
It's like it's like a visual kind of programming where you can like make little games and animations and stuff.
Okay.
If we're thinking of the same thing, yeah.
Yeah, but that's all kind of old school, right? It's been around for a while,
yeah. Maybe they're doing something new with it that I haven't heard about.
Yeah.
She said, she makes this comment here. We knew the loud cartoon commercials on TV were manipulating us from a young age, but the subtlety of targeted advertising has shifted quite a bit. Where literacy in this is a process. Yeah, I mean, it's gotten hard sometimes even tell when you're being marketed to.
Eat the spinach, said Popeye.
Yeah, and then Miko says, so Miko has a podcast, Analytics on Fire, which is excellent. And she says, when I started my podcast in 2016, I had mostly male data leaders. Women are, she says women are non-existent to say the least, but I don't think that's exactly what she meant. I think that's
at that time
were
non-existent. Look, I mean, I can tell you like another interesting data point, and I don't know what this means. Maybe you have a thought on it, Ramona. I get reached out to probably twice a month by someone who either wants help getting into data or wants help navigating a career change. And sometimes these are my friends, people in the data industry who some of us even know. And a lot of other times they're people who just graduated.
Okay.
And they want to talk to someone for advice about their career. And it's 100% women. Never, like not once has a man reached out to me and especially someone I've never known. Like I take probably 2 calls a month with someone I've never met before. I have no idea who they are, but they message me on LinkedIn and they say, I'm just trying to get into data. And do you have 15 minutes to give me some advice? And I always say yes. And it is 100, like I've probably done 12 of these. All 12 are women.
Few thoughts there. Like, we are at the hour. Think about how much courage it takes for somebody to reach out to you never met, and also being a woman, right? Because that's another ingrained thought in the society that if as a woman, I reach out to a man, what is the outcome I'm looking for?
Right.
Yes. And
Yep.
and that is a huge barrier. I can say with 100% certainty that comes across a lot, especially in a tech world where we're so underrepresented. And the second thing is, a bro is just he doesn't. Sorry, this is stereotypical, and now I realize I don't want to be stereotypical, but I'm thinking, and I've seen this, teaching at university and dealing with that. I don't know, that resilience or the belief in themselves, or the imposter syndrome is not reaching a point where they will think, oh, I need to talk to somebody. I'm just going. I'm doing. So a woman, and this is proven, research in psychology and neuroscience and all of that. So supports this idea. A woman, if is 90%, if checks 90% of the list, she will focus on the 10% she doesn't have, so she won't even do it. The man has maybe 10% and said, yeah, I've got it.
Yeah.
Sorry
Yeah.
so I apologize for being
Yeah.
stereotypical here, but this was actually rooted in research. And
I mean, look, that's my experience as a man.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, what the heck? Give it a shot.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not my job to tell me no, I don't have the job. It's not my job to tell me I don't have the job. It's their job to tell me I don't have the job.
There you go. And how did we reach this point, as women? So that's what we saw growing up. That's what we saw in society. And now, if all we see is AI friends who continue to just say, well, you are the human incubator, you have, all of that. So if that is a fight to have, and to be passionate about it, is that, and especially considering what's happening politically, right? And how, and this is all happening behind closed doors, right? Like, oh my, that should be a separate conversation, separate panel on just human rights and reproductive rights, and how is it that old men decide make decisions about a woman's body, right? When they have no idea what that is. And I hope I'm not going too far here. Sorry, no. I really did not come here with a political agenda or anything. I'm actually very, I stay. You didn't stop me, so I took it as an encouragement.
We listen, this is, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just the times we live in, but we had 3 episodes this season that have actually gotten decently political when it had never come up ever in the history of the show before now. So I think that's part of just the time we're living in. Thanks for sticking with us, everybody. I know we've run a little over, but I think it's an important conversation to have. I think that, to end it, I guess my last thought after all this, and thank you. You're a great guest. If you have a data podcast and you're looking for a guest, ask Ramona is my advice. I
appreciate that.
My biggest concern is I think that this is probably, this is the most powerful technology ever invented to shape the human mind.
Yes.
And my concern is that we are just not going to use it wisely.
No.
In the same way we didn't use social media wisely. The algorithms, it appears, are clearly are capable of injecting ideas into people's heads.
Mm-hmm.
And look at the ideas that we've chosen to inject.
Mm-hmm.
It's and it's all driven. It's driven 100% by what is the stickiest, will make you stick in the app the longest. It's hacking people's rage and frustration.
Yeah. Exactly.
And AI is just going to be even more powerful.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And pouring fuel, absolutely, 100% what you said. And we are, when the society is so preoccupied with just selling more, and what problems are they solving? Their own problems of selling more. everybody is becoming a victim of the algorithm, right? And they don't realize it. Like, I mean, if we are all part of the, we're data points in that algorithm, and whatever. I heard a quote from Simon Sinek that an influencer is a freelance worker for an algorithm.
Yeah. Yes.
That's true. That's a good way to put it.
So,
and the algorithms, I refuse to believe that it was impossible to develop an algorithm that actually uplifted people.
of course.
It was possible.
Of course, but that was not what would bring the money. And all of it was, to incite the societies, to push the agenda of whomever, pay the bills behind all of that, of course. And Ryan, it's all attack. You were saying something earlier about the pain, right? Nobody wants to feel pain and grief. You were talking about pain and grief. Nobody wants to feel that. So everybody just would do anything to not feel the pain. So that was an easy band-aid. And all as humans, we look for easy band-aids. We forget that there is a root cause. We don't have the awareness that we need to look to the root cause of all the pain and work from there, right? But the shiny new tool, the cappuccino foam, how I like to call it, is way more enticing than the caffeine at the bottom. So those of us who love the caffeine, we keep pushing for and open the eyes, right? We're not alone. And we just need to find each other in this tribe of outliers and those who, well, we had to have lived longer to actually have seen variations of this. And
yeah, I think that's a good place to leave it. I know. Thanks for staying with us an extra 10 minutes here, Ramona. It's just
I loved it. You can tell, right?
Where can people follow your work?
LinkedIn. That's where I am. I've started writing a little bit on Substack, but yeah, I know that's not tracking that much, and Medium. So LinkedIn, that's where I play, and I would love for I forgot the names of you said Miko and
Miko, yeah,
and someone else who had those amazing quotes. If they want to connect,
well, Mohammed had a lot of good stuff to say.
I'm connected with him, yeah, but there was someone else who you had really, really good quotes. You kept bringing. You said he's a regular, so.
Oh, Michael.
Oh, that's sorry, I'm looking in the wrong thing. Michael, yeah, Michael, Michael Dunphy.
Okay, maybe we're connected. I don't know, but shoot me a connect request. I would love to have, definitely resonated. So, and everyone else, of course. Thank you for having me. This has been a blast, and maybe we'll get to meet in person. We'll have to see about that.
Yeah, that would be great. I will let you know if I'm coming through. All right, thanks for joining us, Ramona.
Bye.
Bye. Woo, she's awesome.
Yeah, it was good.
Listen, thanks for sticking with us for the longest ever episode of Super Data Brothers, I think. Let me, of course, we have to thank our sponsor, Good Data, for sponsoring the show today. Good Data AI launched to GA last week. You can try it out now at gooddata.com. Sign up for a free trial. Good Data AI is a query building, visualization building assistant. But what makes it unique is the scope of this thing. So it's not tied to just a single dashboard. It's not tied to just a single data set. It goes over your whole database, your whole semantic model, and gives you a conversational agent that follows you as you explore the BI content from dashboard to dashboard, from folder to folder. It's quite powerful today. And, as someone who has a little inside view to the roadmap, very cool things on the horizon. We'll be launching our MCP server soon. So really check it out at gooddata.com. Sign up for a free trial and see what it is we've got going on with Good Data AI. And I think we'll go ahead and leave it there. Next week, we have a little known guest. It's this guy, Joe Reese. Maybe you've heard of him.
No.
So tune in next week for Joe Reese, folks. And every time we have an episode with Joe, it's always a good time. I saw Joe so much at the Databricks conference, I have to say. Totally unplanned. Like, I just randomly ran into him 3 times.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. It was just like I was just walking, I
Hey.
looked to my left, and it's like Joe Reese is walking next to me. And we're also gonna do a deep dive a little bit. There's some really interesting announcements in the BI space the last few weeks that we haven't covered. So, we will bring those up and try to get Joe's take on them next week. Tune in. Until next time, folks, I am Ryan.
I am Eric.
And we are the Super Data Brothers. Take care, everybody, and have a good summer. Bye.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Bye.